There are 9 common reasons that you're living paycheck to paycheck, and I'm going to show you how to fix each and every one of them. Okay. 10 years ago, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was holding tens of thousands of dollars of debt, and I didn't care. I had no direction, I had no goals. I was just kind of existing in the universe. And I kind of thought it was always normal to be struggling with finances or not really think about your finances. It's how I was brought up. But then I see my friends, some of them were making less than me and they were having way more, way better financial success. So I literally just asked them, like, hey, what are you doing? And it wasn't what they were doing, it was how they were thinking, because they just chose to win at all costs, right? They made a choice to win. They made a choice to improve themselves and continue to grow. And I was just sitting there like I was stagnant. Since that conversation, I've been able to build $1 million net worth. My wife and I paid down $43,000 worth of debt in just 13 months. And now I'm helping other people through my own personal experience, through my experience as a corporate accountant for the last decade. Okay. So if you've felt the same way ever, where you're stuck financially, you have no directions, you have no goals, and you're just kind of existing, but you're in the paycheck to paycheck cycle. It's frustrating you. You want to get out of it, right? Maybe you have kids and you're trying to give a better life for them. You're in the right spot. So we're going to jump right into it. And while I pull this up, after we talk about those 9 reasons, I'm going to show you some tactics, okay, of what you can do starting tonight if you really wanted to. So let me just pull this up really quickly. Just give me one moment to share my screen. All right. Can you guys see that all right? Yeah, let's do that. So there was a survey done in 2023. It was published in 2024 by Forbes. Okay, the survey was done by payroll.org. Anyway, they basically asked people to self-assess their current situation in their finances, right? And the root of it was trying to figure out how many people are living paycheck to paycheck. But before we do that, we have to kind of understand, define paycheck to paycheck. Everyone knows what it means, right? But I just like to define the words that we're talking about and the phrases. That way everyone's on the same page so for the purposes of this survey, I'm just going to read it quickly here. This is what the article said. And by the way, I'm not going to read through the whole article. I'm just trying to set some context for you. Living paycheck to paycheck describes a financial scenario in which an individual or family's income barely covers essential living expenses like housing, utilities, groceries, transportation. One missed paycheck would put someone living paycheck to paycheck in a difficult spot. Okay. So this survey, again, this was sort of self-evaluation by these people. 78% of Americans say that they live paycheck to paycheck. So 4 out of 5 people say they live paycheck to paycheck. And 70% of people either identified as living paycheck to paycheck or had, their income didn't even cover what their expenses were. So basically they're losing money every month. So if either one of those, living paycheck to paycheck, or your income doesn't cover your expenses, let me know down in the comments or hit the like button, something, so I know, that you guys are paying attention. This section here, it was really intriguing to me. I really liked this article because of the 9 things, which we're going to talk about in a second, but this caught my eye. Okay. This is how much do Americans have saved? Okay. So out of all the respondents, 80% of people do not have $2,000 or more as savings. 80%. Now, I don't know the population that was asked or whatever, but 4 out of 5 people don't have $2,000. Okay. And of the people who are living paycheck to paycheck, so that's this column here, 85% don't have $2,000. Okay. So it's pretty telling. Like $2,000 isn't a lot. It is a lot, but it's also not a lot. Like it to me, that just means that there's no intentionality when people thinking about their personal finances. There's no plan. Okay. And we're going to get into all of that. Respondents whose income does not cover standard expenses. Right. So basically, when you're losing money, that's what this column is. So 6% have over $2,000 saved. And then respondents whose income exceeds standard expenses is like 40%, which that makes a little sense. But if your income exceeds expenses, maybe you should have more than 2,000. Like you should be planning every single month, not like saving when you have it. Again, we're going to get into the reasons and the tactics in this video, okay? But the real potatoes of this video and why I wanted to make this, and hopefully why I think this will help you, is this section here, okay? Why are Americans living paycheck to paycheck? Yeah, and you can see that perfectly fine. Excellent. So they listed out 9 things here. So we're going to go through them really quickly, and then we're going to talk about this chart, what the percentages mean, everything like that. So they asked the respondents to identify 3 key reasons why they're living paycheck to paycheck. So that's why these percentages will not equal 100%. So let's say they asked me and I was living paycheck to paycheck. I would pick 3 of these options as to why the 3 biggest reasons why I think I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And then they just tallied up everyone's scores. And here they are. So this is filtered by all. As you can see, there's different generations here, which is pretty cool. But here's the order, okay? High monthly bills, lack of budgeting and financial planning, low income, unexpected emergencies, increase in cost of living, social pressures, medical expenses, financially supporting family members, and debt. Now, to be very honest with you, I was pretty surprised that debt is as low as it is. And I think part of the reason, I talk to a lot of people about their personal finances. People phrase debt as bills that they have. So I think maybe that was a distinction of, not misunderstanding, but just they chose an option and they chose high monthly bills. But I think some of this is part of this, because there's no way only 5% of people are saying that debt is the problem, unless they're forgetting that their car loan is debt, that their mortgage is debt, that the credit cards that they are over and they have a bill on, that's debt. Like maybe they're not understanding fully what debt is. But either way, I was kind of surprised by that. So the top 4, you're going to see, we're going to click through each one of these generations here. High monthly bills, lack of budgeting, low income, unexpected emergencies, all across the board. If you look across, all these percentages, when we filter through these are going to be the top 4. Okay. So if any of these relate to you on this, I'd love to hear from you. Which one is your biggest thorn in your side? Which one of these reasons is the biggest challenge for you? I'd love to know that. And then hopefully by the end of this video, not only will you say, this is the biggest reason for me why I'm living paycheck to paycheck, but now after, this video and this conversation that we're having, here's what I can do about it. That's kind of what I'm trying to do. Here's the problem. Here's what I can do about it. Because I think too many people think, oh, here's the problem, I'm not going to be able to fix it, right? Similar to my story, 10 plus years ago, I just kind of thought this was the norm. I grew up in, not a lot of money. It was just sort of like, it was like the paycheck to paycheck vibe. I don't know for sure, but that's what it felt like. And that's just kind of how I grew up. And I thought that's how it was. And I'm telling you that it's not. So hopefully we can go through some of that now. So let's talk about the first one. High monthly bills, okay? So what I like to do when I'm thinking about my expenses, okay? Because everyone, of course, has everyone makes a different amount of money. Everyone has different, things that they buy, things, different priorities. What I like to think about with my expenses and my spending is what's the main goal here? Like, am I just spending money to spend money? Or is there a reason behind it? And I think a lot of people spend money just to spend money because they have it and there's no plan or intention with it. They get a paycheck and they spend the money. And then, their next paycheck's coming up and they have no money because they spent all their money and they don't have a plan for it. And then these bills that they have seem high because they're like just behind. It's like, I have no money, but I have 4 days before I get paid again. And then you have to like keep kind of pushing everything out, deferring it. And I think that's just like a big snowball effect that everyone's having. Because what I find is after talking to these people will jump through so many hoops to pay a bill that they owe someone else, right? And how many times have you been in a situation where like, oh, wow, how am I going to cover this? And you figure it out and you do it for someone else, but you're not willing to, jump through hoops for your future, for your financial goals. Okay. And I think a lot of you maybe don't have financial goals, which is fine. That's kind of what this video and all my content is about. It's about aligning your money with your goals. Okay. So I want you to start jumping through hoops for yourself. Make it challenging to, pay yourself in the future. Don't always prioritize like the other person. Like you also have to prioritize yourself, because too many people that I speak with pay the bills, pay the bills, pay the bills, and at the end of the month, they don't have any money left over to, apply to their debt, to put towards a retirement or an emergency fund, or do the, education thing for their kids. Okay. Also, just, someone had to say it, right? This could just mean that you're living above your means. Someone has to say it, right? It could just mean that you have to just take a hard look in the mirror and like, yeah, you know what? I am living above my means, and I need to figure that out. I need to start tracking my finances. Okay. And I need to start aligning my money with a goal, right? Prioritizing that. The next one here, lack of budgeting and financial planning. This is where we're going to sort of think about goal creation. Okay. Because if 46% of people saying that they basically haven't budgeted and they're not thinking about their money, it's because there's nothing that they have to look forward to. You haven't created a goal that's good enough to like obsess over, right? And you can start small with this, but basically what I want you to do is write down, even if it's just one thing, but try to have like 3, 5 things that are like very, very important to you. They could be life goals, they could be financial goals. Okay, so either one of those work. And it could be a challenge that you're having. If you don't know, like, I don't know what a good goal looks like. It could be just, here are my biggest challenges. So it could be like, wow, I have $50,000 in debt. Like, wow, you could just chunk it up to something as like, I'm living paycheck to paycheck and I don't know what to do. So you just write on all the challenges or the goals, and then you rank them in priority of terms of like what you want to accomplish first. And then what you do is we start looking at our finances. Okay. We set a, sustainable plan every month. And it's through a process called the 3-month look back. So in the budget template that I share with people, it's actually down in the description of this video. Before you start budgeting, you have to do a 3-month look back, which is you look at the last 3 months of all your expenses and you basically track them and you lump them up into large expense categories. So think groceries, gas, utilities. You do this for your variable expenses. So you wouldn't do it really for your mortgage or your rent, because those are fixed and we kind of know those costs month over month. But the things that you buy every month and they fluctuate, we need to see where your money's going. This is going to open your eyes tremendously, because if you've never done this before, let me tell you, where you spend your money is not going to be aligned with any sort of financial goal that you're thinking about. So really, it's just, how do we set up a consistent, sustainable routine? It has to be sustainable. Because someone like Dave Ramsey, I love Dave Ramsey. He does a lot of great things, but I think he talks in extremes a lot, where it's like, oh, if you're in a lot of debt, you just have to cut everything out of your life, right? He likes to, it's tongue in cheek a little bit, but he like rice and beans, right? That's his thing. Yes and no, right? It has to be sustainable, sort of like losing weight or something, right? If I wanted to lose weight and I only wanted to eat 500 calories a day, how long do you think I'd be able to do that? Not very long. And then I would have like cheat day or cheat days, and then it would just mess everything up and it would basically just put me back to zero. But we have to be a little more thoughtful of something that we can do over the span of our weeks, months, years. Okay. Because that's how we need to be thinking about goals, by the way, in years, not by like tomorrow. And at the end of the day with this one, I'm going to spend a lot of time on this because this is my wheelhouse. You can start small and you could start with doing something like trying to find a little extra money in your finances. And that's what that 3-month look back process is. Basically, you see where all your money's going this 3-month look back. You get the average, and then you can see like, oh, this is way too much for this category. Oh, this isn't enough, right? And then you change your budgets based on the average. And hopefully by the end of that process, you're going to have an average or an amount every month that you've like saved. And I'm going to get into the tactics in the budget template file. So it's right here. Okay. We're going to talk about this later on after we talk about the 9 things. And then basically we just use that money that we've found in our finances, right? Without getting a second job. There's no side hustles. You don't have to sell that weird thing in there, in the basement on eBay, right, to get extra money. I'm talking about money that already exists in your finances and that you just don't know how to unlock yet. Okay. And actually, that's what this is, again, it's just like what I do. It's my wheelhouse, and I'm so passionate about it. I've actually created a free community. It's called Dollar Discipline University. I help people just like you find extra money in your finances. And right now I'm just focusing on paying down debt. So if you have debt, then this course and community is for you. So just quickly, here's what you get, right? If you sign up, you get a free one-on-one strategy call with me, absolutely free. Everything's free, by the way. This is all free. Free tracking tools. So the budget template that we just saw, a debt payment calculator. I also have a net worth tracker, an emergency fund calculator, if you're interested in those. We're going to talk about a personalized plan with your finances. So we're going to get you off the, first couple months, we're going to get you rolling, getting, set up on a plan. The method that my wife and I used to find more money in our finances, I say $100 here. Obviously, this could vary for everyone. It's a nice, whatever. It's $100. It could be $80, and that could be amazing for you. It could be $200, and that could be amazing for you. Okay. And then the proven strategies, how we're going to take that extra money and apply it to our debt, and the strategies that we need to do to make it, as optimized for you as possible. And then obviously I'd like to create a motivated community to help everyone stay accountable. Now, as you can see, we have 6 members right now, which is cool. I just sort of launched this. So there's trainings in here. Okay. There's only 5 videos, just quick, light trainings. Here's the community. It's just like, social media without all the bullshit. Like, if I'm being honest, so this site, school.com, it's great. So if you're interested, school.com/debt. Okay. And that's going to bring you to this page, and then you just simply join. Okay. So it's going to be in the description as well of this video if you're interested. Back to the 9 things. So let's talk about the third one. Okay. Low income. Now, this one people use a lot as an excuse, and I totally understand. But when it comes to finances, it's not about the income. Okay. It's about the habit that you've created. I've worked with people that make, I don't know, $40,000, $50,000 a year. And because of how they've set up their finances and what they do for their life and the cost of living, they actually, they're debt free. They're putting money towards the next financial goal that they've set for themselves, which is amazing. I've also worked with people that make over $100,000, and they have over $100,000 in debt. And that's not even including their mortgage. Okay. Because people think that more money solves problems. But what's the saying? More money, more problems, right? It's true. If you've never set up the habit, it's going to be the same thing. So whether you make $50,000 or $5 million, you're just going to keep spending money up until your pain point, up until your paycheck to paycheck threshold. There's some crazy stats that a third of people that make over $200,000 say that they're living paycheck to paycheck. That should just not be the case. There's certain cities that are way more expensive than others, so maybe they're coming from that. But $200,000, come on, we can figure out how to do that. So just remember, just tell yourself it's not about the income, it's about the habit. And I was someone that used to believe in the saying that you are worth what someone else is willing to pay you. I was all in on that saying, and I was like, yes, I just have to keep maybe jumping around companies, trying to find people that quote value me more. But what that did is it put control in other people, which I don't like anymore. I've no longer thought of this as a positive statement. Because if you're saying oh, I'm worth what, this person or that person says I am, they're in control of you. So I think it should be, you're worth what you think you're worth. Now that's much more powerful, because now it feels like I'm in control of that, right? I'm the one that can set the bar for myself. And if I don't like where I am now, and I've done this many times in my career, the last 10 years, I've been at 4 companies, and I'm not a job hopper, but I have goals. I have financial goals that I'm trying to reach. And if a company isn't going to meet it, or if they said they were going to do the thing and they're not going to do the thing, and there's no growth path, then I'm just not interested, because I'm not here for the 2% merit increase. That's not going to do anything for me. So if you're someone that's stuck with low income, try to think about how you can first provide more value in the company that you work for. So that could be maybe you're in a position where you're able to save the company money, where you're able to produce more income for the company. Those are very direct ways to make yourself more valuable, right? So If the bottom line of your company is better because of the thing that you do, great. So maybe there's some new skills that you can learn to level up in the company. Maybe you could ask your boss, like, hey, what would I need to do, or what would I need to be like learning about to move up to the next rung in this company? And like, what's the time frame for that? And quite honestly, this is a good exercise either way, because if they don't really have a good answer, then maybe this isn't the place for you, right? If you want to grow, if you want to keep doing your job and you like it, then I'll be, I'm not going to tell you what to do with that. But that's just one way to think about it. Another way is you can just sort of learn new skills to move on from a job. Maybe you're in a job that doesn't pay a lot of money, but you're like, this industry, I just don't like this at all. I have to learn a new skill. So maybe you would learn something that's like popular now, like video editing, right? Something like that, where it's big. Like a lot of people need video editing. That's just an example. And you're like, I would love to learn how to edit videos so that I can make money helping, people edit their videos, just something like that. So don't let low income kind of hold you back. Keep trying to, do more for yourself. Unexpected emergencies. So we kind of talked about this a little bit with the savings, because that's pretty much what that is above that stat that we showed, where, 85% of people that live paycheck to paycheck don't have $2,000 saved. And here's how I want you to think about emergency funds. Okay. So first of all, if you were to look online, like, oh, how much should be in my emergency fund? All the articles are basically like they're copy paste, and it's all like, oh yeah, experts say 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses, blah, blah, blah. But for someone that's never done this before, 3 to 6 months can be very, very intimidating, especially when you look at how much you actually spend. So after you've done the 3-month look back, right, and you budget, you can see how much you're spending. And then you basically take that number, multiply it times 3 or 6, whatever. You could be looking at, I don't know, like $12,000 to $40,000. Like, it just sounds like it's a crazy amount for someone that's never done it before. And then they, get demotivated because they see this huge thing that they have to accomplish and they have no idea how to do this. So they just don't start. Okay. So what I want you to do is think about maybe even after you're doing that 3-month look back process, but think about like in the last 6 months or 12 months, you don't have to track it, but just think about it. What was the most expensive thing that sort of popped up for you, right? Did you like blow a tire or two? You had to do, I don't know, something else to your house that was an emergency. What's that number where if you had that number saved up or off to the side, the number that would sort of help you, say it was $1,000, like most things that happen in the last year cost less than $1,000 as an example. So you're like, well, if I had $1,000 off to the side, so when something does happen, I could just shift it over and pay it. I would feel a lot better. It's like, okay, that's great. So then the question becomes, how do we put aside $1,000? And that's where we go back to the sort of the North Star goal. So maybe you're like, yeah, I keep getting burned with these emergencies and I'm making good progress. And then boom, I have like an $800 thing and it just sets me back months, because then I have to use my credit card and I go into debt and I'm trying to pay it off. And the hustle is just like, it's a struggle. Okay. I know this too. I was there. It's a struggle. You're just like, you're never catching up. Okay. So the goal here could be like, well, if $1,000 is my number for now, how do I get there? So maybe it's, well, the financial goal is, can I save or find that $100 a month? And then I just try to stack up my emergency fund over the next 10 months. Okay. Now, stuff could happen in between then, but at least like if you have a $400 emergency fund and a $600 thing pops up, it's like, well, now I only have to find, the $200 to make it work instead of the full 600. Okay. A really fun analogy that I like to think about with emergency funds is this. Okay. So I would think most people have played a video game where the main character, the player that you're using, has a health bar, right? Of some sort. So you're going through the level, you have your health bar, and your health bar is your emergency fund. Okay. The end of the level, the thing you're trying to accomplish is your financial goal. So let's say, for argument's sake, that it's, something with debt. You want to pay down your debt. So the goal is debt, and your health bar is your emergency fund. So you're going through the level. And then all of a sudden you're just getting attacked out of nowhere. Your health bar is going all the way down. The screen's like flashing. There's sounds and stuff. What do you do in that moment in the video game? Okay. Do you push on and just hope for the best and maybe you make it through this tough time? Or do you go behind that rock over here where no one sees and you use the med kit thing or whatever, and your health bar goes back to normal? Because the risk of going forward, as you know, is you could, die in the video game and go back to the beginning or go back to the last checkpoint. And that's you like taking a bunch of steps forward and then wow, you're getting like 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. Whereas with the emergency fund, the health kit example, right? You're behind the rock, you're not making forward progress, but you're not making backwards progress. Okay. So behind the rock, you are, resetting your emergency fund. And that's just a fun way to think about it. So like visualize yourself as the character. Like you're not going to push through if your health bar is like flashing, right? You're going to hide and you're going to figure it out. So that just helps like take the risk away from not reaching your financial goal faster. Because think about it, 2 forward, 4 back, and then you're back at the same spot, and then boom, you're back again. So like get to the rock, wait a second, go, 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 and then it's going to happen again. Find another rock or whatever. Okay, you guys get it. The next one on the list, increase in cost of living. Okay. So basically how the world works is costs are always going to go up. Okay. And I know that's hard for some people to like think about, but the truth is everything goes up. The cost for everything goes up. The value of assets goes up as well. So that's why it's important to maybe try and figure out things that you can buy that, create valuable wealth for you. But yeah, things go up. So like your groceries are going to go up. All the things that you buy on Amazon are just going to go up on a regular basis because that's just kind of what happens. So we need to plan for that. And that you'll find that some of these sort of link together, right? So if you're someone with, let's say low income, right? Sorry. We need to think about more than just the 2% merit raise, because if our stuff is going up, I don't know, 2 to 5 to 8% in a year or something, then our income is way behind. And we need to really kind of think about that. So a lot of these do kind of go together, right? So you could combine like lack of budgeting and financial planning with this too. If we make a plan for things going up, we need to put some money aside, right? And this could be an unexpected emergency, right? I don't know, but how do we think about that, right? In an extreme example of this, people have moved, right, to cut their costs. That's a very extreme example. But sometimes you may just be in an area that is just above your income, above your means to pay it. And it's not the end of the world. But people have done this, and it's just something to think about. Like that's obviously an extreme, but how can you think about on a smaller level of how can I keep up with the increase of cost of living? That way, at least it's like a net zero. We want to be net positive, but like we don't want to be in the negative. Okay. Social pressures. This is probably the dumbest one on here. Okay. If I'm being quite honest. And I was pretty surprised that people were this transparent about how social pressures have gotten to them. Because 27% of all people, Gen Z was 25, millennials, like a third of millennials, even Gen X is like, yeah, I'm socially pressured, 24%. Really, it just comes down to, again, we have to set the goals, get the North Star, but then we have to be okay with saying no, guys. We have to be okay with saying no. I'm recording this video in, it's about a week away from Christmas. And I know that December and the holiday season is like a very high pressure month for a lot of people, socially, financially, okay, emotionally, mentally. It's a tough month. There's a lot going on for everyone. So what I recently told someone, I was on the phone with her and she, was just kind of getting her budget and her finances on track. It's been a couple months and she was talking about December. She's like, well, December's a wash. Like I can't even track that. It's just gonna be a shit show. And I was like, well, we still have to, you're going to be spending more money. Yes, of course. But like, we still have to plan for it because at least it's going to be helpful data for next year, right? So you can see like, oh, I've spent this much. And maybe before next December, you could start thinking about, putting money aside in July, $100, $200 a month, something that way it alleviates the pressure in December. It's not a big blow in December, because I think what happens, again, this is sort of similar to unexpected emergencies, right? Where not that December is an emergency, it happens every month. We know what the calendar looks like, but people buy all this stuff in December, and then they are trying to, climb back to zero in January, February, March, April, May. Okay. And it's just not how we want to, it's not how we want to operate. We don't want to be reactive with our finances. We don't want to buy all the stuff and figure it out later. We want to plan for what we need to do. And this is something that my wife and I wish we did better, actually, when we were going through our process of paying down the $43,000 worth of debt. Because while we did say no to some things, like some social events, some friend events, family events where it would cost us money, because we were being pretty intentional, we unfortunately, we lied to our family members and our friends about why we couldn't do the thing, instead of just being honest and saying, actually, we just have this goal that we're just really excited about doing. And, it could be a compromise. Like, instead of doing this thing for money, maybe we could do this thing like for free. Like, hey, you guys can come over, right, and hang out, whatever. And it's still a hangout, but it's for free. So that's something I wish I had done better. So if you're going through that process, try to find someone like an accountability partner, okay, that you can work with. If you have a spouse, that's great, that's aligned with you. But if not, just have like a friend and someone that's already kind of gone through this process. I think that's going to be really helpful, because then you guys can kind of partner up and just share what's going on in each of your lives. Again, that's something I'm trying to create in Dollar Discipline University. Okay. So go in there and check that out. But we just have to learn to say no better. And this is coming from me, who I was very, that was not my style back in, the 10 years ago. I was very, not that saying no is aggressive, but it's just, some people take it the wrong way. But you have to start living your life and think about the financial goals that you want to reach. Okay. And not what someone else wants you to do. That's just, I'll leave it at that for that one. Medical expenses. Okay. So obviously there's a couple ways to go with this. We all know that people are dealt different hands in life. So that is 100% part of it. But if you are aware that there's, some medical situations, there is still a way to plan for, right? It's still just like, that could be your North Star goal, right? I'm going to keep talking about the North Star goal. That could be the thing where it's like, well, I need to find money in my finances to be able to help pay this. I understand that some medical expenses are above and beyond, being able to pay off, which is just ridiculous. That's probably for a whole nother video, not on this channel though. And yeah, so I think we could just create a system where we're trying to find more money in our finances. There are some things that you could try to look into, like an HSA, health savings account. I don't really dive into those on this channel, but that's something that people do when they're trying to, save money for a medical expense. Like, it's tax-free when you contribute, it's tax-free growth, and then it's tax-free withdrawal if you use it for an appropriate medical expense. So that could be something to look into. It's like a specific savings account for medical stuff. But other than that, this one's kind of tough. If I would say that there's one on here that isn't solvable. So all of these I think are solvable. This one, there's some caveat here where it's like, depending on the situation, of course. Like in some people's cases, it's more just like, maybe you're not healthy enough in terms of like your physical fitness, but then there's some where it's like, yeah, you can't do anything about the really bad stuff, right? You probably can't. So that's all I'll say for that. I don't want to talk too much about that. Financially supporting family members. Okay, so not sure what this meant either. Is this like, hey, I have kids and I'm supporting them? Or it's like, hey, my third cousin that I've never met is, I'm giving them money. So I think it's really important to set boundaries. If I'm assuming that this is talking about, like the third cousin thing, or I don't know, an uncle, whatever. You got to set boundaries. You got to, set the expectations. And I don't like to tell people what to do with their money, so I'm not going to tell you what to do or to not do. And if you're in a position to help someone, then great. But I think if you're not in a position, like if you're in this survey, you're like, yep, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and yep, I'm giving third cousin Bob $500 a month. It's like, well, maybe we should let Bob figure it out, because what's the saying? I wrote it down actually so I wouldn't forget. Give a person a fish and you feed them for a day. Teach them how to fish and you feed them for a lifetime. So basically the thing is, like, instead of giving them the one fish every month, maybe you can show him or her, whoever the third cousin is, how they can be, applying what they can be doing in their personal finances to make it work for them, instead of like always just with the handout. Okay. Another analogy I like to think about this is like the airplane when the mask, right? So if you've ever been on a plane, the flight attendants will say in the beginning, like, hey, if we, lose cabin pressure, the masks are going to come down. Make sure you put on your mask first before you do the person next to you. And they don't care who's next to you. They want you to do yours first. And it's kind of like that with finances. You can't put someone else's mask on. You can't put third cousin Bob's mask on. You have to put on yours first. So if your mask isn't on yet, meaning like if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're struggling, you can't really be helping out people too much, because you're not in a situation to be doing that. If you're well off and you can do that, then great. But if you're struggling, that's tough. Okay, because we can't pour out from an empty cup. So if your cup is empty, there's nothing to pour into third cousin Bob. Okay. And then finally, debt. 6%. Again, very surprised with the numbers here. It's pretty interesting. It kind of like goes up throughout the generations. Baby boomers, 15%. But with debt, okay, we've talked a lot about finding extra money to put towards a financial goal. So that would apply here. But basically, it's just analyzing where you are and where you want to go. So with debt, obviously, the where you want to go is to be debt-free. That's obvious, right? But where are you now? So it's helpful to know how much debt you have, okay? How much debt you're paying every month. And how to sort of get the strategies going. So I'm going to use this as the transition here. Sorry, hold on and make sure that that's good over there. Okay, cool. So this is our debt payment calculator. This is part of the tools that you would get joining Dollar Discipline University, okay? So if you like this, make sure to go school.com/debt. You can check out the templates for yourself. So I'm not going to go through the full tutorial of this. I just want to show you what you can do. So if you've never done this before, what you need to do is, write down all your creditors or whatever you want to call this, okay? The balances that you owe currently, the interest rates that are currently on your debt type, and then the minimum payment that you have for each line item. So in this example, we have $40,000 in debt. We have $400 minimum payment. And for those of you that don't know, if you don't make your minimum payment, you get charged a fee. So if you don't, in this case, if you don't pay $400 a month, you're going to get charged, and you're basically, the debt that you owe is just going to keep going up and up and up and up, and it just balloons out of control. Okay. So at the very least, and this is kind of what I was talking about, where like, know where your starting point is. If you're not making minimum payments, you have to find a way to get to this point first. Yeah, you have to. So if you're paying $100 a month or something towards all this debt, you have to find a way to get to 400. You have to, because I'll show you why, and I'll show you why. I think I need to make this slightly smaller so I can get a little more in the screen here. Okay, you guys can still see that. Perfect. So let's look at why. So this section here, monthly payment, this is how much money you're currently paying towards your debt. Okay. So let's start with the $400. Let's say we're making our minimum payments. Great. Now down here, there's two debt payment strategies that I personally would recommend. The first is the debt avalanche method. So this is when you prioritize your debt from highest interest rate to lowest interest rate. So the goal of this is to, since debt is basically all about interest, okay, if you're attacking the highest interest rate first, then it's going to be the most cost efficient one for you, because interest is why people stay in debt for so long. So when you have $40,000 in debt, in this example, you actually have like 90, because you're not thinking about the interest that you have attached to your debt. So that's why it's really important to get rid of your interest. And that's why we want to find more money in our finances so we can do this. Okay. And hopefully after this example, you'll be extremely motivated to, kind of go through the process yourself, find more money, apply it to your debt. So that's the avalanche method. The snowball method, and this is actually what my wife and I use to pay off our debt. Okay. So either one of these work. The snowball method is where you prioritize the smallest loan amount first, and it goes all the way down to the largest. So basically, any extra money you have at debt, you throw at the smallest one. And the reason why my wife and I did that, we had like 12 loans in total, like 12 different loans between us. So I had some, she had some, and we had some shared stuff. It was bad. Yeah. But we had like 4 or 5 that were under $1,200. So we're like, if we can get rid of these quickly, like that would be really exciting. We pretty much get rid of a third of our line items in our debt. Okay. Which is very, very exciting. That's why we did that. We probably missed out on some dollars because the avalanche method is the better version for dollars to be saved. But the snowball method is more about psychology kind of, and you're getting the small wins. And if you've never done this before, I would actually recommend doing that one. Okay. Because personal finances is all about getting the small wins, because I think, again, people see these huge goals or challenges that they have and they don't know how to solve them, and they just don't ever start. So if you're like, well, I want to be debt free, and then you look at this number, you're like, oh no, but I have $40,000. I don't know what to do. And then you just don't start. But if you just work towards in this case, the smallest debt, like figure out how to pay that off. And then you're like, wow, I can do this. And you pay off one and you just keep going. You pay off the second, you pay off the third, you pay off the fourth, and then you're debt free. And then you have all that extra money to put towards your next financial goal. And that's the whole point of kind of what I love to talk to people about, taking people from really not understanding what their personal finances look like to getting rid of debt. Okay. Because it's not just about becoming debt free and like, oh, I'm done. It's because debt is it's not a great spot to be in, because it's very inefficient for your wealth. And not that wealth matters, but like it's a negative compounding effect on your wealth, right? When you're paying someone else interest, that interest is building over time. When you're paying your future self interest, right? When you have like an investing account, for example, your compounding interest is positive. So we want to go from a negative compounding effect with our debt to a positive one. So it's really just zero to, starting to becoming debt free, and then doing the next thing, the more valuable goal. Okay. Back to this. Sorry, that was just a little rant. I get very passionate about this. I want people to win really, really bad. That's why I make videos, and that's why I do what I do. Okay. So we're making our monthly payment. It's the minimum payment. So at least we're making the minimum. Now let's see what would happen if we didn't make the minimum. Let's say we're paying $200 a month. I don't even know what's going to happen. It might break the calculator. So after I hit enter, I'll show you. Let's look down here at what's changing. Total interest paid right now is $49,000. Our debt-free date is August 2043. So when I hit enter, let's see how those change. Yeah. So the calculator does not love that. But the interest went up, how much? Like $8,000. And the debt-free date went up. Wow, it went up 9 years. 9 years, guys. Okay. So that's why it's really important to get to at least the minimum. So now if paying less than the minimum is this impactful, imagine paying more than the minimum, how impactful it would be the other way. Okay. So let's go back to the $400. And in Dollar Discipline University, I talk about the power of $100. Okay, so let's just do $100. If finding 100 extra dollars a month, what can it do? All right, so let's remember, interest paid $49,000, debt-free date, August 2043. Let's hit enter. Whoo. Okay, so it's like $28,000 of interest, guys, and then 8 years of paying off our debt sooner. If that's not motivating for you, then I just truly don't know what is. Okay. $28,000. All you have to do is find an extra $100. I'm not saying, put in more work or get a job or sell your stuff. It's in your finances, guys. It's in there. Okay. But you're probably sitting there thinking, like, I hear you, Chris, but how do I find it? Well, let's go to the budget template. Okay. So now this is, the second part of the tactical version of the thing that we're trying to do. This is what I mentioned earlier. Okay. The 3-month look back. So again, I'm recording in December. So if I were to start this from scratch, I would want a September column, October column, November column. Okay. These are variable expense categories. So this process we only want to do for variable expenses, things that things that fluctuate every single month. Okay. So think about groceries. That's obviously not the same every month. Gas in your car or whatever, that's obviously not the same every month. Utilities, not going to be the same every month. Okay. But we need those three theoretically every single month to kind of live, right? So I've kind of already done the work here. I've just put in some random numbers just to show you. But basically, you go back through your bank statements. You go back through your credit card statements. Is it a pain in the ass? Absolutely. But what's also a pain in the ass is not really understanding your finances and living paycheck to paycheck. So both of those things are very hard. So you just got to pick your hard. Which one's hard? Or which hard do you want to do? Okay. I choose the growth path of trying to figure it out and trying to make improvements. Okay. So we go through every month. We tally up all the different categories, which is great. And now we have an average for each of the line items. Okay, this is great. And now, like I talked about earlier, with the North Star, this is where you kind of combine both of those strategies together. And you would say, okay, all these things on here, are any of them aligned to a financial goal? And maybe more importantly is, it might be easier to tell this way, which things are the least aligned with my financial goals? Which one of these are the least? And then you can start narrowing it down from there. So you take the average, you look at it, you try to eye it up with your financial goals. And then over here, you're going to want to create a new budget amount based on the average. So you can look at something like groceries and be like, well, okay, I'm spending $540 a month. And you know what? I have been going to that like bougie, expensive grocery store. Maybe I don't want to like lose all the stuff that I get from that store, but maybe like I can go down a tier or two grocery stores just for like the basics. And I think that could reasonably save me $30 a month. Okay, cool. And then what's your why? Well, I'll go to the cheaper store for some items. Okay. And this part's really important. You have to put a why behind it. You can't just put a number here without like, what's the action I'm going to be taking to make that happen? Because anyone could just write a number for our new budgeted amount. Okay. And this is all just kind of, you figure this out on your own. It's just kind of what you think. There's no wrong answers, especially the first couple times that you're looking at your finances. Okay. But this process is a one-time investment. So if you've never done this before, you would do the 3 months. And then every month after that, you would just do the month that you're in. So you do these three to get the new budget amount, which is for December. And then technically you could just kind of keep using the same budget amount. And we're going to go through the budget template here in a second. Okay. Okay. So that's groceries. Cool. We think we could save $30. Great. But then on your list of 5 things that are, very important for you financially, or, a life goal, one of those things is your health and fitness. Okay. So that was one of your top 5 things. And you're like, wow, I know I just kind of have a gym membership, but I'm only spending $30 a month and it's in my top 5, like most important things in my life. So how do I, not necessarily like break the bank trying to like spend more money on it, but how do I be more intentional about, pushing my money towards it? So maybe to start, you'd be like, well, instead of $30, I think I can double this easily by, I don't know, taking more classes, doing supplements, whatever. Okay. And that's actually what I wrote here. So this process, the budgeting process, is not about restriction. And that's why I like using those 2 examples, the groceries and the health and fitness. It's not about restriction. It's about intentionality. So a budget shows us what we can do with our money, A budget isn't saying what we can't do with our money. It's showing us, hey, these are my options, which is great. And if you frame it as more of a positive thing than a negative thing, it's going to be way more impactful for you. Because I think that's why maybe you, but a lot of people don't do anything with their finances because they hear the word budget and they're like, oh my God, and now I have to cut everything. We've been hearing, Dave Ramsey for years. Okay. It doesn't have to be like that. You can, yes, there will be things you have to cut. Like that's just like the foundation of a budget. If anyone tells you otherwise, they're lying. But there's still ways to increase spending in some areas that are very important to you and decrease some. So for me, for example, when we were paying down the debt, how we were treating life was basically like, okay, what are our need items? So like the roof over our head, obviously like utilities, okay, groceries, great. We can go to another grocery store, cheaper grocery store. But then it was the financial goal of paying down debt. It wasn't want items. We weren't thinking about the Amazon purchases. We weren't thinking about having 36 streaming options. Like one or two is fine, okay? And we didn't cut everything. Like we kept some stuff, we didn't cut everything, but we still prioritized the financial goal. And then at the end is the want items. So it's like, oh, okay, so now we have a little extra money. Let's do that thing with the friend that we pushed off last time because we have some fun money available, whatever the thing is. So it's not about just being miserable. It's about just prioritizing. That's it. And being intentional. So after you go through that entire process, down here, this is the most exciting part. We have the totals. So the monthly savings is here. And as you can see, it's totaling up here. Oh, $111. That sounds good. And it was just in our finances. In our finances, we didn't, this isn't, we're not talking about income here. We're not increasing income. We're just we're realigning our money with our goals, which is great. And then annualized, $1,300. What could you do with $1,300 in a year? That sounds pretty great, right? So this $111, you've seen in this debt payment calculator how much an extra $100 would do. Okay. So after you're going through this look back process, if you have a number here that you're happy with and that you think could be impactful, now a good exercise is get your number, plug it into the debt payment calculator. Like what if you have, $60 and it's like, okay, so my baseline was 400, right? I'm paying 400 a month and I found $60. So what would that do? Let's take a look. Wow, it's still $23,000 of interest and it's like 6 years of being debt earlier, 6 years. So like if you're happy with that, then amazing. But if you go through this process and you don't like this number, maybe rethink about your goals or rethink about how you're allocating your money and just kind of keep recycling this process until you get to a spot that you like. Okay. So it's not a one and done necessarily, but you just kind of keep reiterating and you're like, you know what, let's try out this $111 in December and then we'll see how it goes. And if it's not working, if there's something that is a big issue and it's not working, we can readjust. And what I didn't mention is dining out here. I reduced it from $213 to $100. Okay. Cause I'm finding that this is by far the number one thing that people don't realize how much they're spending on. And it's true. It's so easy now to open up whatever app you prefer, Uber Eats, DoorDash, whatever. And you just like click 4 buttons and you get food in 35 minutes. It's pretty great. Right. But then you forget like, oh, it actually costs like $72. And then you do that once a week. And then all of a sudden you're at $300 and you're like, wow, that added up quickly. Okay. So just a little food for thought. This is literally by far the number one thing that people don't realize. And I do want to I want to start putting some stats behind this because I do have the people that I've worked with, their information, and not that I'm going to share people's information, but just like the averages for different expense categories. And you can change these, by the way. I didn't mention that earlier. These are just ones that I put up here, but this is for you to change. Everyone's life is a little different. They're going to have different variable expenses. But I think it would be very interesting to see, like, after people do this exercise, what's like the top 1, 2, 3, 5 things, 5 categories where people are not only cutting, but increasing, because it's like, wow, this is way more important than I've been putting my money to. Because if you look at someone, basically you are, in 10 years, you're the person responsible from the actions that you've done today. So if you're doing, positive actions in your finances and in your life, in 10 years, you're probably going to be doing pretty well. But if you're the person that just keeps, doing the DoorDash thing when you have extra money, 10 years, like, I don't know, like you're probably not going to be reaching your financial goals as quickly as you'd like. That's all I'm probably going to say with that, right? So then once we go over here, this is the budget template. And we got a couple more minutes here. So excellent. If you're interested in this budget template, this is also in Dollar Discipline University. You can go check that out. I do have a link here on the page. You could just click this and you get access to it here. You don't have to you don't have to go in here to find it. Okay. You can just school.com/debt. The tutorial's in there. That's what I was trying to say. The tutorial for this is in there. So basically how this is set up is you have your budget, which is based off your income. Okay. So obviously you can't spend more than what you make. So we need to budget off our expected income. So let's say you make $4,400 in a month. We run through all of our fixed expenses. So you're going to enter all your stuff here. Here's your budgeted fixed and your actual. They should be the exact same because we know what they are. Your new budget from your variable expenses rolled forward, okay, into this variable expense category. And then here's what we paid for them. And then if we go over here, you'll see that this debt information is actually the exact same stuff that we put in here, because I just wanted it to make, to be identical. And then after all that, blah, 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 we have remaining to budget $110, which is basically this $111, right? Which is pretty cool. So now we have an extra $110 to apply to our debt. So if we look back at the debt payment calculator, if you're someone that wants to pay it off as fast as possible, no matter what, like you have the mental fortitude to handle it, we'll choose the avalanche method. Okay. So we'll go back to $400 and it's telling us that we need to apply that $100 to credit card one, which is the highest interest rate, right? 20%. So the calculator is organizing it from highest interest rate to lowest interest rate. That's what the avalanche method is. So what we do is we'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to budget an extra $110 here. So that's $275. Okay. And now you can see remaining to budget, we've budgeted $4,400. And then leftover money, this is how much money we need to pay. So I'm just going to make this $275. And our leftover money is $0. So we're going to try to apply that $110. So I'm going to back up here. Apply that $110 to our debt. And we're going to see what happens, right? So instead of 400, now we're going to do 510. Awesome. And this initial snowball, this $110 is going towards the credit card one, because the $400 is the minimum payment. So these dollar amounts you would pay to each of these, appropriate line items. And then the $110 is going to credit card one. And that's how we make the magic happen, right? The game here, and it is a game, okay? Once you realize how powerful this is, you're like, how fast can I make this happen? And this is the hamster wheel that my wife and I got ourselves into. Hamster wheel, that's not a good way to say it because that makes it seem like we're trapped. But the momentum swing, the whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. That's what we wanted. We're like, well, this is powerful, the amount of money that we're doing. But what if we really ratchet it up? So what if you, instead of the $500 is great, but what if could you find $1,000? That's crazy. So if you go back $400, so $49,000 of interest, August 2043, and you just play around with what would $1,000 do, you're cutting off $43,000 of interest and 15 years of being in debt. That's pretty interesting because, again, because of interest, the more you pay, the faster you're going to be paying it off. Okay. Just like in investing, the more you invest, the higher your investing line is going to go, your portfolio. Okay. So debt's the same way. If we can, stop the negative compounding from cratering to being more smooth and you're paying less interest, that's what we're going after. Okay. So guys, it's been about an hour. The time flies, honestly, when you're having fun, when you're talking about personal finance and debt. I am going live every Thursday night around 7:30 p.m. Eastern, okay? I've got 2 kids, so could be, plus or minus minutes, whatever, depending on how bedtime goes. but that's the routine I'd like to get in. So if you found value and you're still here or watching this after the fact, thank you so much. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything specific you want me to talk about in these live streams, because I really want to like start building up a community, not only here, but also in Dollar Discipline University. Okay. I want to start building up communities and figuring out what people actually want. Because right now I'm making videos what I think people want, what I think you want. And I want to know what you want. So let me know down in the comments. Smash the like button. Share it with a friend. Who else is struggling with your finances? Find that accountability partner and share this video with them. I think that would go a long way. And then you guys can talk about it together. And then you can let me know how you did. Okay. So Thursday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern, go to school.com/debt. Links in the description. And I'll see you guys next Thursday. Have a good one.